Hey everyone, we are back for my third episode of Girl Be You Conversations. And y'all, I love having these conversations with such amazing women so far. You can go to the YouTube page to figure out all of the other episodes. But this episode in particular, I'm very excited to be talking to one of my friends. Sometimes you got those friends that you don't really talk to all the time, but you're inspired by them. Tamika and I actually went to Northern together. And back then I was a much, much different person. But I am so grateful for time and maturity to learn certain things. And I am so inspired by Tamika. I'm inspired by her authentic ability to be herself, to just be a light that we all need to see. And so I thought that it would be so amazing to have this conversation with Miss Tamika. And before I go any further, I'm gonna just let her introduce herself and tell us a few things about what she does, how she's impacting the community, and when she doesn't say all the things, I'm definitely gonna jump in there. So go ahead and take it away, Tamika. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm so proud of you. I'm grateful to experience this space with you.
Thank you.
I have known you since college, and you've always been that girl. So, always. So I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good work.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. I'm Tamika Romayne from the South Side of Chicago. I have lived on the South Side of Chicago my entire life. I do quite a few things in the community. My interest in the community is education and quality food. So I do a lot of work centered around those two topics, or those two, what would you call them? Like those two things. Mm-hmm. And I kind of figure out a way to merge them together to make it make sense for everybody, mm-hmm. and to create a space where everybody can win.
Yeah. So again, I told you I was going to jump in there. Tamika not only has things within the community, but it is so amazing to see a woman. And the older I get, the more I realize when I was younger, I did not have this. I wasn't able to see Black women and thriving in the manner in which we do. And that was mainly because of where I grew up. I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood by the time I was a sophomore in high school. And by the time I got to college, I was like, oh my gosh, look at all these amazing Black girls. I mean, my family was Black, of course, but to be around that, it just shaped me. Tamika does an amazing job in education. To see her love poured out on these students, and to see how both education and quality foods really works together, it's a deeper conversation than just this moment. So I love that those two pillars are working together. And so my first question to you is, how long have you been in education?
So I've been in education really all of my life. My mom was a teacher for Chicago Public Schools, an administrator for 37 years before she passed away. And then when we finished college, I actually went to school for mortuary science. And I was working full time at several funeral homes, even created a business for myself in the mortuary field. And then one day I was like, I am too young to be on call all day like this. I said, what can I do while I have the summers off? It started as a joke.
Right.
I was like, well, just apply to be a teacher, being sarcastic. So I was like, okay. So I went and applied to be a teacher. And next thing it was just a joke. I didn't have any credentials, but God always has a plan. So you don't need credentials for this life. Doors just open, right? So the next thing I know, the principal called. It was like, yeah, come, would you like to teach science? I was like, I don't have any credentials. He was like, did I mention that? Like, what do you? So I ended up, that was 10 years ago. So I started in alternative schools here in Chicago. And then I transitioned to Chicago Public Schools. So this coming year in August will be my 10th year.
Wow. I love that statement. You do not need credentials.
Oh, yeah.
We're in a place where when we were going to college, it was like, we got to get this degree. We got to get a good degree so we can get a good job and we can set ourselves. And there was so much pressure to get this degree, to get a good job. And I don't know about you, but for me, I was like, this is a scam. Very early on, I was like, this is a scam. Because what I learned was it was really about, like you said, God really opening those doors and the opportunities for you to be where you're supposed to be. So it just worked out. So I was going to ask the next question, which was the driving force to your education, but working in education, but we see that it started as a joke. But once you got in it, what was it that really just kept you going? Like, how did you transition? Of course, we hear how you transition from mortuary into education, but once you were in there, when did the shift happen for you?
Okay. I believe that the shift happened immediately. Like when I began working for the alternative schools, I was on the west side. Within 2 years, I had 13 students that were murdered. Wow. So I was always from the day one, I walked into because I was a student that would get kicked out for talking and would not be quiet. The student where they're like, well, what's wrong? What's going on? Just basically floating through school. School was never really like, I have to get the all A's. I've never been that person. Like I did really well, ACT, those type of things kind of help to open doors. But I never really was a school type person.
Yeah.
So as soon as I got in the classroom, I saw, started reflecting on my own life. Like, what are some things that I wish I would have experienced, or some things that some teachers would have said to me in the classroom that was encouraged, that would have kept me interested in the subject enough to get something out of it. Or, who are the people that were in my life that helped me take point A to point B, C, D, and E. So I tried to use that as like my driving force.
Yeah.
And from there, every day, from day one, I tried to come in with a positive attitude, show respect to everything that I didn't not saying that my teachers were horrible, but we all had that teacher that was like snotty or attitude for no reason, or would single out students, right? Or would treat students differently based on who that student's parents were, or so I said, okay, I'm coming in here doing the total opposite of what I experienced, right? So I just use that, and it kind of like helped propel me into different situations with different kids.
That's amazing, because that was part of the reason why I started, a lot of the reason why I started Girl Be You, is because I started like a couple years ago, and I wanted to create a space to inspire people to really be themselves, because I had struggled for so long being what other people said, doing what other people did. And I think in one of the bios that I wrote, I was like, I want to be that person that I did not have. Like, I wanted to be that light for a little girl, my goddaughter, my mentees, that I didn't have, I didn't have that person to talk to. So I just really think that that's amazing. And so we talk about how health and education, these two pillars that you're bringing together, of health, healthy eating, healthy mindset, being positive, and education. How do you believe that our what we consume is directly connected to the education?
Wow. It's everything, right? Your diet is your foundation. So not just diet and what you eat, but anything that you take in. So what you're watching on TV, the conversations that you have, the people that you're entertaining, the places that you go, all of that is what fuels your body, So, in teaching, I can't teach you anything, no matter how great of a teacher I think I am or whatever. I can't teach you anything if I can't get to that, if that substance for that foundation is not there. So it's important to, teach people that these things are important. And then you begin to see that child that may have had behavioral issues, or a hard time focusing, or just totally lost, engaging in the total person kind of flips this. It's like, oh, okay, this, maybe I should, be more conscious. And then because it creates like a different vibe or frequency, once you change things in a positive manner, then everything that you do, it has no other choice but to go in the same direction. So I met students who were totally like had really like disabilities, but they found meditation to be useful. They found different foods that they changed their diets a little bit, for lunch instead of chowing down on hot potato chips and this, I'll take the apple and some water. And then when they come back, they're calm enough to take in the learning material, and then they're not easily offensive. If you say that's wrong, they're not ready to jump. They're like, okay, let me sit back, ask questions, or reflect on, what I said. How can I? And just treating, you see it in everything, how they treat each other. You can tell. So it's the foundation, and to me, it's something that in other countries that's taught before you even walk into the classroom. But in here, it's like the opposite, and you don't learn until it's most times too late. You go to school, do this and that, and get work your way up, and then you're sick and dead and not able to really reap the benefits of all of your hard work. So why not, like I said, let's switch this around a little bit. Let's do the hard lifting first, the heavy lifting first, and then let's go ahead and tackle, the other stuff.
I think that's amazing because turn this down a little bit. I think it's amazing because I was a children's ministry director for a while. We were on the west side, but the church was based on the south side. And it was so many children that we saw, like 1,200 children a month. And, growing up in the suburbs, there were things that I didn't always see because, you're sheltered. There are just certain things that you're not exposed to. But when I took that step out to go outside of myself to take this role, there were so many things that I learned. And this in particular, this piece right here in particular about the diet, about positivity and what we're feeding ourselves is so important. Like some of the parents and the kids thought that I was crazy because when they would come in the morning and I saw like flaming hots, I had a garbage can. I was like, throw them out. We're not doing it. Like, because first of all, it's just not healthy. Second of all, we created a breakfast program to where children would have breakfast coming to church. And we created having lunch programs where the children will be able to have lunch at certain times where service was going on, because I just felt that it was so important. Like you said, like it changes their moods. It opens them up. It allows them to hear differently. And I also feel that, and this is not on my questions, but I just wanted to know your thoughts with, I think you spoke on it a little bit about different disabilities and learning disabilities and autism. And I don't think you said that, but autism. And I believe that a lot of these things are directly connected to sometimes what is being consumed. Like, do you feel that way? Do you think that, or what has been your experience with that? Or is it just similar?
Absolutely. And I'm grateful that you use the word consume, because I think too, the words that people put out and what we take in. So I've had students in the past who believe that they can't do something because somebody told them that they can't do it. Or a child that says, I have this disability, and they're not budging. They're just like, I have a disability. It's because they consume someone telling them that, and they're really believing it. So when we think of like life and words and actions, all of it's not limited. It's not just like, it doesn't stop right at what you eat. It doesn't just stop at what you do. It's everything is everything.
Right.
So I think absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And even like we have a teacher at my school. She printed out foods that children with ADHD should eat. And she gave it to Pierce. I was like, right on. We're on the same. And the parents was like, oh, I did not know that. I was just given this diagnosis.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you could get medication or you could see this therapist, but that's it. But we all know what you put out is what you get in,
Yeah.
Cause and effect.
Yeah.
So everything works together. So absolutely. I wish I could. Maybe this summer, since I'm on summer break now, you see my summer break look.
I love it.
Since I'm on summer break, I can put together some brochures and pass them out to people like, look.
Yeah. And I also think that people, like you said, they stop. They say like, oh, well, this is what they said, and that's what I believe. So my dad is a pastor, been a pastor for 30 years. And sometimes I'd be like, yo, these faith words are killing me. I can't, like, we're not going to do this. And he's like, no, G, faith. You gotta speak positive. You gotta live in positivity. And I think sometimes we get so stuck, just not in spiritual spaces, but in physical spaces and mental spaces. Yeah. We say like, oh, that's it. I have this and that's it. And I agree. Like, no, what are you consuming? What are you putting in your body? Like, when you started, what are you watching? What are you listening to? What words are coming through your ears? And if that is what you're hearing, consuming, eating, and thinking on, of course you're always gonna stop and be like, that's it. That's as far as I can go. So I think that's amazing. What is your ultimate goal in being a leader in education? Do you have like a end goal?
Well, everybody says that. Right now I'm just going where I'm needed and appreciated and welcome, wherever that is. And I'll just leave it at that. I don't know who's watching. Yeah.
But I also think that those are great words to not limit yourself, right? I think sometimes we say like, in 5 years, I want to be here. And then we're disappointed when you don't see it. But we put the brakes and those limits on ourselves by saying, this is where I want to be. So I absolutely love that. I love that.
Just constantly work on yourself and do the things that you need to do so that when doors open, regardless of if you want to walk through them or not, you're qualified or meet the credentials and all of that. And most importantly, creating relationships with people, treating everybody the same, regardless of their road in life, and I believe things just happen like that versus I let go of that a long time ago. Like that whole 10-year plan, 10-month, I stopped doing it because it's like you playing yourself. Like sometimes it may work.
Yes.
At some point, like I said, I can't straddle the fence. I'm either in or I'm out. I'm either having radical faith or I'm not. So I have to have radical faith in all aspects of my life, not just when I feel like it.
Yes.
So I can't do that. So I'm just like, okay, God, you rocking, I'm rolling. And that's the way it goes.
I used to be like that. Well, I take that back. At first, when I was in college, I was footloose and carefree. I didn't care about anything. I was like, we out here. I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen. And it wasn't until like my last year when I started to see like the people I came in college with, they were like, all right, we getting up out of here. I was like, where y'all going? And so I was like, gee, you really got to get yourself together. You cannot be in Northern for the rest of your life. But then after that, I felt this pressure of like, I need a plan. I have to have a plan. If I don't have a plan, I plan to fail. And I start writing out all of these plans. And I remember my first apartment and I wrote down like all these things that I wanted. I was like, by 27, I'm gonna have this. And I was so disappointed when I was 27 and none of those things had happened. I was like, what happened? I thought I was supposed to be prepared. You guys told me to be prepared. What I had to learn, like you said, is for me, I literally ripped my list up.
Yeah.
I was like, if this is where I'm supposed to be, I'm gonna do the best with where I am. And I'm going to give it my all. And like you said, if those doors open and they're intended for me, then I'll walk through them. Now, it hasn't always been that easy to be like, okay, I'll just walk through the door. Yeah. It hasn't been that easy, but time and maturity has allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
It's allowed that to happen to where I'm like, okay, well, we just see.
And sometimes you can't even be in that moment because like for me, I couldn't just rest in that moment because I'm too busy worried about what's, and that's how it is. I don't want to be in the classroom like, not giving my all and watching my back and not being authentic because I'm worried about what I want to, making sure everything is like this so that I can move forward. Yeah. And to me, that always, personally, it always pushes me back further because it's like, I can't grow what's not authentic. Like, eventually it'll catch up and it'll just be like,
And I think that, especially for me, and I might be speaking for everyone, and I don't want to do that, but especially for Black women, we feel like we have to be at this certain place because everyone is anticipating us to be at this certain place. And if we're not, then we're failing. And I'm like,
no,
we're like, that pressure is so much. I have cousins now that are just like, I gotta, and I'm like, no. First of all, you're not even ready for what you're asking for. Like, I was not ready for the things that I have now 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I just wasn't ready. Like, I hadn't experienced enough. I hadn't went through enough. I hadn't, cried enough tears.
Yeah.
I would have been able to appreciate where I am now, just the quiet and the solitude. 10 years ago, we're like, what are we doing? This is too quiet. I can't take it. But now I'm like, oh, I get to read a book. It's quiet, So I think that not being in a rush is an amazing thing. And like you said, you miss out on being authentic when you are watching the clock.
Yeah.
Like, how long is it gonna take me to get from this classroom to be, over this whole thing? Like, you gotta just enjoy the moment, enjoy where you are. So I'm gonna get back into our health and education, because we spoke about like how important it is to consume certain things. And I know that you're big on I believe, are you vegan or
no?
Like, no. But I was just interested to know, like, when did you become like conscious about what you eat and what you consume, in which it changed for you?
I was always into, I always knew about like wellness. I grew up going to the health food store on Saturdays with mom. And my mom, she actually had me at age 41 naturally with no medication. Okay. She was a gym teacher. Okay. In Top Health. And then she decided to, she had a scare, hit her leg, started going to doctors, started taking prescription drugs, started relying on the prescription drugs. The prescription drugs, of course, everything has a cause and effect.
Right.
So of course they created detriment to other organs in her body. Mm-hmm. So when she passed away, that kind of triggered, okay, I've seen it done the right way and I've seen it done the opposite.
Right.
So one of those moments in my life where it was like, okay, choose, like we were talking about, you can't straddle the fence, choose which side you want to be on.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, let me go on over here, and that's how it happens. So right now I eat like a Mediterranean diet. It's like high omegas, things like that. Organic food, good water, things like that. And I did practice veganism for like 2 years, and it didn't work for me. It does work for a lot of people. For me, it didn't work. But I wouldn't say it didn't work. I didn't get the biggest bang for my buck with that diet. So with this diet, I feel like I am getting the biggest bang for my buck. I'm able to participate in dance and drumming and things like that without feeling fatigue, and I'm getting all of my nutrients in. So that's what's most important to me, making sure that I'm getting all of my macronutrients, drinking quality water and things like that.
And I think that's important because sometimes when we get on certain trains of, paleo or vegan, we're like, everybody needs to be on this, and I'm on it, you be on it. So, and I know that it doesn't always work for everyone, but finding the thing that works for you. And it's very interesting because, again, just going back to this underlining conversation of what we put in our bodies, what we consume, and how we put that out. And I think that that's really, really important to know that even with the things that we consume, if you consume social media all day, then you'll put out fear, anxiety, and comparison. And it will literally either kill you, fuel you, or make you be someone that you were never intended to be. And it's just, I think if more of us, more people could think through the choices that they make of the things that they consume and be aware of it, right? Like the other day I was like, just feeling like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Maybe I make the wrong decisions, and then I was like, stop. girl, you've been on social media too long. You need to get off. I was like, oh, okay, I need to go mind my business. That's clear.
Yeah,
Clearly, I'm using that and I'm consuming too much of that because now I'm getting unfocused and not on the path that I need to be on. So, I was going to say, my next question is, how important is it to healthy eating habits connected to children's success? And I think this is kind of like the undercurrent of this conversation that we've been having, but is there examples? Well, I think you gave those examples, but additional examples of how these habits, like how do you pair that with the parents and them going back home because they're with you for X amount of hours, but then when they go back home, how do you continue to support and undergird that to where it doesn't get lost once they leave you?
Right. What's the saying? Each one teach one. So that's the goal. Like the more you know, you tell the students, excuse me, if those are my pets making all that noise.
No, you're fine. You are fine.
They are so okay. Each one teach one. The goal is that you create something solid that students can replicate. Okay, because for me, teaching was all just memorize. Okay, you know, but for me, teaching is much deeper than that. Because I remember I was taught different things. Some things stuck because I was able to do it myself. Some things I don't remember because someone either did it for me or just modeled it and moved on. So for me in education, I try to teach not only by speaking, but by example.
Yeah.
And then allowing students the opportunity to replicate what I'm doing. So for instance, we had a tea party this past week. And I said, we're going to choose the menu ourselves. You know, so we looked on like Mariano's, all Trader Joe's, finding all these little, okay, let's look at the nutritional value at the back. Yeah. Who is red dye at it? We know we don't like red. So you heard the kids like, we don't want no blue dye. We want all natural, organic. You know, and some things I didn't even say. It was just from them. Are we having real lemonade? You know, It was from example. So then they will take that information, go home. Because I said, okay, your homework assignment is to create a tea party at your house. You can buy tea for $1.50 or something, you know, really. It's very reasonable, and you could create the same atmosphere. And with the tea party, we had conversations. So you're sitting, I need you to hold an intelligent, non-judgmental conversation with one another that's giving each other a way to engage in dialogue, you know? So they will take the same platform, mom, let's have tea, non-judgment conversation when we're So to me, that's what it's about. That's just one example. The same thing with like the school gardens and the farmers markets that we do. Okay, I bring them. I'm not just modeling. Okay, let me do this. Not bringing it. You're right next to me. So if I'm not here, honey, you should know what to do. Yes. And most importantly, your homework assignment is to go home and take some of these seeds and tell mom, even though we live in an apartment, I know how to grow you out of a sponge. I know how to grow out of a pail. I know how to grow out of a plastic bottle. You give me anything and I could grow something, right? Yeah. The same mentality with my students. Teach this to your parents, or else it's information and then it hits a wall. It doesn't go in. So I wasted my time. They wasted their time, you know, just a bunch of wasted energy. Education and learning, it can't stop. It has to keep going. Or else you're not really educating. You're just fulfilling either ego, some type of self-fulfillment, just talking, or I don't know. No. It's like the church. You grew up in the church. You want your parishioners to share the word, not just keep it in the church. If not, you wouldn't have any members. It'll just be you and your family. It'll stop right. You don't want that. Same thing with the school, right? Same thing. Yeah.
I just love that so much. I love the concept of, you know, you don't have to have a whole lot. Yeah. You know, these are practical things that are taught and you have that cost little of nothing. So you don't need a huge budget to learn how to plant or whatever you need to do to reproduce. And the education, like, I am so passionate about educating, reading, and leading. I always tell people, I'm like, readers are leaders. Like your ability to continue to learn and not just learn and like, oh, I got all this knowledge all to myself. No, now I have this information. Now I want to share this information with you. I want you to get this information. And the fact that children now become the teachers to their parents, that means that the parents are pouring and the children are pouring into each other.
Right.
And that is how you build relationships. And that is how we keep this concept of community growing, where it's not just, you do what I say do because I'm your mama. Like, yes, I absolute respect. But I also am learning some things too. And here's a new way to learn something that you may not have learned. So I just love that idea of, you know, we pour, you pour, I pour, and we all grow together.
Yes. And we're all in it. And it's no me, it's us. You know, we're all partners. I partner with the kids partner with me. I partner with the parents. It's no Miss Romayne coming here talking about all her degrees and accomplishments and where I've traveled and where I live and what I drive. Nobody cares. You know, it's not important. So everybody has to meet. So it takes a bit, you know, everybody has to be on the same level, you know, and you have to be able to meet people where they are and not even be like, you never heard of that, you know, or make it, because some parents get kind of upset. Like if they feel like you have a large role in their child's life versus like, well, what about me? So you have to be very careful with that. You have to make sure that you engage the parents and what's going on, and not only engage them, but you working together. Like you said, it's community or teammates, you know? Yeah, absolutely.
And I think even the point of building relationships, I think that is a lost art. I think that, you know, it really is. Like people feel like, what can you do for me? And that's the only reason that I want to be connected to you. And you know, sometimes I sit back and I'm like, what are we doing? Like I just don't believe that this is what life was intended to be. I believe that, you know, everyone is teaching someone something. And so it like you said earlier, it's not about my ego. It's not about my credentials. It's really about us building relationships so that we can stay in community with each other. I think a lot of the underlining currents of what I don't like them, because it's because we are about us instead of just coming into the room and being like, what can I learn? And what can I share? In this moment, what can I, like, you're teaching me right now, like, wow, I didn't know I can grow nothing with no sponge. Let me do some research. You know, like, and I'm learning. And I think when we become open to continue and always stay a student, we can remove all the other junk out the way. You know, it just, you know, that's a whole nother conversation. But the other question I was going to ask is, how do we, I see how you're doing it, but overall, how do we, or is there even a way to incorporate this type of healthy eating, healthy living into a children's curriculum? Because I'm not a teacher in any school district, so I don't know how it works, but I would be interested to hear your perspective of how do you do it, and if it should be included in the children's curriculum, because what you're doing sounds amazing. And it would be wonderful to have this kind of throughout all of school systems. So what are your thoughts with that?
Well, the school lunches have become much better than when we were younger, right? And it's because of Michelle Obama's initiative, but her initiative was pioneered by parents, teachers, and community leaders and members who spoke up, right? So it's the same thing with the classroom. The more that we learn, the more that we have to show people what we know, right? Because it is a sense of humbleness, but you also have to be like, okay, this is what I know, right? And being able to put people in position to teach those classes and provide those services. So it's a cycle of things. We need people, you know, we need people to be engaged in the process. We need people who are willing to advocate. We need people who are willing to execute, right? And we need people who are able to supervise.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be easy for me to say, okay, we could teach the kids how to, somebody could come in and cook something or do culinary arts classes or something. That would be easy, but everything takes like different processes, right? For it
Mm-hmm.
to continue, right? And for it to be
Mm-hmm.
really, really good. So I think
Mm-hmm.
those things are needed. I do think that it's possible
Mm-hmm.
because it does occur in some of our vocational schools or agricultural schools like
Yeah.
Chaz, even
Yeah.
Marshall High School. They have an agriculture. One of
Wow.
my dear mentors is over the agricultural program at Marshall High School. But again, she has to have those components to see it to its,
To the real.
fruition.
Yeah.
So yeah, we need more community people involved in the schools.
So if there was, again, this is not one of my questions, but you just prompted so much in me. So if there was something that I could do, or someone who's listening that's in the Chicagoland area, what can we do? Like, how do we get involved in being a part of the change and not just talking about the change?
Okay. Well, one thing, of course, like I said, you have to kind of know what you're talking about. You have to educate yourself, right?
Yeah,
And then you
right.
have to be present. They're public schools, meaning that they're
Mm-hmm.
run by the public. It's as much the community school as it is the teachers who work there and the students who attend. So you have to become, and that's not just with the food, but anything. If you have an issue with the curriculum, if you have an issue with how the playground looks, anything, if you want the school painted, you have to make yourself present, not just when in a state of emergency, not just during
Right.
a strike, right? But
Right.
consistently, like at the beginning
Right.
of the school year, I'm at my neighborhood school, which is where I work. I'm up there like, this is what I need done. It's not
Right.
any conversation. This is what we need. It's important to have things in communities like block clubs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's important to know your neighbor and have these conversations, right?
Yeah.
Because your community is reflective of what you say and what you accept.
Yeah.
If you don't say anything, if you don't show up,
That's true.
it's assumed that you accept it. That's why different places look the way that they look or have the things that they have because no one says anything, right?
That's so true.
Right. So if I would tell someone to start at home, reflect, research, become educated and clear as to what you want, then create a small group. I would either start with my family or friends, but it would be easier if you start with the block club, meaning people around and not only eat more effective, right? Because you're effective. Create a block club or some type of monthly meeting. It doesn't have to even be weekly. Monthly meeting with those around you, and then create a list. These are the type of things that we want at the school. Let's take it to another level. These are the type of businesses that we want in our community.
Yeah.
This is the type of service that we want at our local hospital. This is the type of food that we want accessible to us at our local market. Like, and then go from there.
Right.
You just sitting at home on the computer typing and complaining and even just calling, making phone. It's not gonna do anything. You need numbers, and you need activation. You have to keep it going. Do you know Jewel Osco? They sell different qualities of meat depending on what community you're in. I went to a Jewel on Stony Island. I said, why don't you have grass-fed lamb? But if I go to Jewel, I won't name the community, in a gentrified community, which is less than 2 hours away, you have grass-fed lamb, you have more organic vegetables. The manager told me, you're the first one ever said something. We order whatever you want. Duh,
But that it's not, I want to say it's crazy, but it's not, because as I previously stated, I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood. And it's an affluent neighborhood. And when I tell you, from the parks to the schools, to the grocery stores, to the minute they see anything that was out of sorts or not up to their liking, honey, they would go right up to the city hall and be like, hello, by the way, our street, they just did not, they use their voice. And so everything that you're saying is so important, because it is so easy for us to be like, that's not my problem, I don't have kids. But it is your problem, because you live in this community, and at any point you could or you couldn't have children, but you still need to speak up for that community and take those steps so that everyone can have a wonderful quality of life.
Right.
So no child should not have things that is accessible to them, like you're stating, like in our schools, the types of businesses, like that is just profound to me. And it nudges me to say, okay, G, so this is great, but what's the next step? You know what I mean? Like, what is the next step, and how do you make an impact? And I just, girl, I'm so glad we had this conversation. So as we wrap up the conversation, what is one piece of advice that you would give to, you've given so many amazing nuggets as to how we can create impact in our community, but what is some advice that you would give to parents with children, or a teenager that might see this, or another person that's watching? Like, what's a piece of advice about education and health that you would give to them?
Oh, wow. 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 I would say, don't take your foot off the pedal. Keep pushing. It does get better. Doors will, it's all about how you perceive different things, right? I was never a straight A student. Never. I was, oh my goodness. My mom was horrified.
I used to think you were, I was like, Tamika's so smart.
I did not like, I was not interested in school. Like, I was not, I've always been very, very intelligent. That's probably the problem. I was never, it was just like whack to me. It was just like.
Tamika, I promise you, in college, I was like, Tamika is out here getting it, and I am struggling, but she's out here getting it.
That's what we talk about, that comparison, because you don't know.
That's true.
You don't know. I have never, maybe like graduate or something, graduate level, but I've always, because in graduate level, you're zeroing down on what it is that you want to learn.
Yeah.
Versus you just going, to me, unless that's your thing, but it was just like, this is so whack to me. Like, I have other things. I could be at home building something, or, but I would say take your foot. It does get better. And it's important to have authentic conversations about your life with people, so that you're not creating illusion and delusion in people. I think that's extremely important, because some people, they will take the outer and look and say, oh, and believe that what you see is not always what you get. It's not, so it's important that you self-esteem, you're rooted and grounded in who you are, and you aren't ashamed of who you are.
Yeah.
And hopefully someone can use that as a catalyst to help them move forward. I will say that. I think that's extremely important, because a lot of times people are sending children wolf tickets in a lot of different ways, as far as like having this just beautiful stuff. When some of the stuff is not right, or go to this college, do this, when you're going to be paying loans for the rest of it, and that may not be a route. It's not for everybody. If you're not good at paying bills, you may not be good at creating a loan and keeping up with the payments. It might mess up your life, Right. So definitely mess you up. Yeah, so having authentic conversation and just being authentically you. It's ways to do things without going a traditional route. Yeah. One thing that's different from me than a lot of educators is I am a product of college. Mm-hmm. Right. I've continued school from undergrad several times. However, I don't use that to define who I am. And I know that there are different routes to get to the life that you want. Yeah. I also have different trades that I do as well. Mm-hmm. There are people that I know in these trades that never even went to an undergraduate school who are doing great. And I'm not talking about financially. I'm talking about mentally and emotionally and so forth. So I think that's important for kids to know, young people to know, even adults to know. It's never too late to go after what it is that you want. It's more than one route to get to where you want, and to not allow titles and different procedures and processes to detour who you are as a person. Yeah. I was blessed enough to have a mother and that's one thing, school too. My mother really, even though she was a teacher, she really was like, she ain't feeling it. Okay, what do you want to do? And I'm grateful for it, because as an adult, I try to live this fearless life authentically, because it's ingrained in me. If I wanted to be a ballerina dancer or a yoga instructor or just vitamins all day, my mother would promote that. Like my daughter, and that's how she was. And I think that's important for people.
Yes.
It's like, you have to have this title. You have setting people up for some stuff that they may not even be their route in life. I hope I'm not talking too much, but
no, this is good. These are good because I think that these are good tips, because I just think about being a little girl and being like, oh my God, I gotta go to school. Like, because I really wasn't that student either. Like I'm telling you, I went to Northern because I was like, I gotta get out of my mama and daddy house.
Yeah.
So when I went to Northern, it was just like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an OBGYN. I wanted to be a lawyer. Then I was like, no, maybe I'll be a teacher. I did not know. And I had these preconceived notions of how you're supposed to get to this quote unquote expected end, or this place where success was going to find me. And now all those years later, I'm like, none of that went the way that I thought it was.
Good. You know what I'm saying? You good.
Yeah, absolutely. And and those are things, exactly what you're saying is, selling kids wolf tickets. I refuse to do that. I refuse to be like, no, you got to do X, Y, and Z. No. What is it? How can I support you? How can I encourage you? And what can we do going back to that community? What can we do to help you to get to that point? How can I support you? Because some people may feel like they want to start a beauty supply store. Let them. Some people might feel a need to start a grocery store for their community. Let them, support them, because it's not always through the traditional way that we think. But
one last thing, and you can do it all too. Like I still do the mortuary. I do a lot of different things, right? It's all about balance. And that's the last thing that I want to say. Sometimes people be like, oh, telling people, you're doing too much. Oh, now you're doing this. Oh, what happened? Like allow people to live their lives. You only have one life to live, right? And I think it's pretty boring if you just, I have to do this and just stay on that. To me, that's the beauty about life. You can explore, you can do different things. If you get tired, like I said, one day I don't want to do mortuary, I walked away. Okay, I'm okay, and then when I want to come back, I go, and I think that's something that people like women especially need to know, is that you can do all of it and you can be really successful at all of it. You don't have to limit yourself just because other people can only do one thing at a time. You know what I'm saying? Like some people are a trip.
And they really put their things off on you, expecting you to be like frazzled. Like, no, I really, no, it's not me. That's
that's what I go for. One life to live. So what you gonna do with it? What are you gonna do with this life?
Yes. I absolutely love that. It has been a sheer honor, and I'm so glad that we were able to chat and talk. So to everybody who's watching, please make sure that you take these nuggets, share this with someone, tell someone else about it. Go visit us. Visit my website, girlbeyou.com, to be updated on all the wonderful things that we have. More conversations to come. Tamika, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And so we'll be chatting very soon. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.